Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Friday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing awesome out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day. And I hope everyone's been having a great week out there as it comes to an end. We're about to head off into our weekend. It's Friday. I know I'm certainly feeling pretty good. I hope you guys are too. It feels wonderful here in central South Carolina this morning, which is where I live. I think temperatures are in the 60s, really low humidity, so it feels great out there. But here to talk about the weather, we're going to speak on current conditions, the latest outlooks. We'll talk about today's weather. We'll spend a lot of time on the plains where there is a risk of strong and severe thunderstorms for today, and we'll break it down state by state, explain the setup and all that good stuff. I don't expect an outbreak of severe weather, but just like we saw yesterday, if you get hit by one of these storms, you could get all hazards. I mean, there wasn't, I don't believe, any tornadoes yesterday, but we had very large hail. We had extremely strong winds in some of these storms from some of the videos I was seeing. So definitely, if you get hit by one of these storms, I mean, you're going to know it. So we'll speak on all of that. And after we get done talking about today's weather, we'll speak on the pattern to come throughout your entire Memorial Day weekend. We'll speak on tomorrow, Sunday, Monday, all the way into early next week, and just speak on the pattern as it could be quite rainy and stormy for certain areas. Now, are we going to run the risk of significant severe weather, outbreaks of severe storms? We're going to speak on all that as we go along in this video. So timestamps will be up throughout the entire video. If you're not worried about today's weather, certainly jump ahead and listen to what you want to listen to. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below so I can do that. And it gives many others an opportunity to pray over your prayer request also. So let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So this is current conditions. We continue to have this spin, this upper level low that just continues to sling a lot of moisture into portions of New England. We cannot get rid of the rain to save our lives here in southern areas of Ontario and just southeast Canada. And we're even getting more rain getting pushed back into like the UP of Michigan, the eastern sections of the UP this morning. So we're going to continue to deal with the cloud cover and rain from this throughout the next 24 hours up here. So we're just not quite done with it yet, unfortunately. I've been reading in the comments, you guys are sick of the clouds and sick of the cooler weather, and I don't blame you one bit. I mean, we're in late May. It's not supposed to be in the 40s and 50s, even up here. So the southeast is pretty quiet this morning, but we do have some flow cruising across the middle of the country, and this will be one of the factors that drives strong to severe thunderstorm chances across this area once again for later on this afternoon, this evening. I do think the severe weather threat will be a little bit further north today compared to yesterday, but tomorrow it'll probably shift back south. So complex of storms and energy moving across southeast Texas right now, but everywhere else, nothing too active. A little bit of rain up here in Montana, but as far as the Storm Prediction Center outlook, here's a broad look at it. I will mention there is a risk of some strong and severe storms across areas of Florida today, kind of the same areas that saw it yesterday. We'll see it again today. But the big risk area is right here in the heart of the country. Slight risk across the yellow area. This includes northeast Colorado, southwest Nebraska, right through the heart of Kansas, into a good chunk of Oklahoma, and does include southwest Missouri and northwestern areas of Arkansas. Marginal risk does extend a little bit into the western plains of Texas, even a very small section of southeast New Mexico. So we will get more detailed on this as we go. I know you're wondering, well, aren't you going to show the individual outlooks? I'm going to do that when we give you an update on the severe weather threat for the plains, which we'll do here in the next few minutes. But slight risk up. We'll break it down as far as the tornado, wind, and hail outlook here in a second. But the risk of excessive rainfall. Listen, flooding could become a bigger threat over the coming days. But even today, we do have a slight risk of flash flooding occurring. And this basically includes right where Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma sort of all meet together here. And this includes Joplin, Springfield, Fayetteville down to Fort Smith, Tulsa, into Pittsburgh, Kansas, not Pennsylvania. But all these areas right here, a 15% risk of flash flooding occurring within 25 miles of a given location. A lot of areas of heavy rain and areas of storms is going to move over this area. It might not be the highest risk of severe weather region, But a lot of heavy rain will have the opportunity to fall in this area over the next 24 to 48 hours, honestly. But as far as this National Hurricane Center update, nothing going on, no tropical activity expected between now and the next 7 days. So nothing to discuss there, but we are getting outlooks now, so I think that I'm going to begin to throw those in the videos a lot more. So watches, warnings, and advisories. We do have flood watches right where we do have that slight risk of excessive rainfall, and it'll be centered over this area over the next few days, really over the weekend, honestly. And we do have some severe thunderstorm watches and warnings ongoing right now and across Texas. So elsewhere, pretty quiet. But let's break down the plains threat. So we'll section it off to the north and then to the south. So the north is going to include the states you see here on your screen. So slight risk area, level 2 out of 5 in the yellow, includes everybody in the yellow that you see here, Hutchinson up to Imperial, Nebraska down to Dodge City, Hays, all the way down to Joplin, Missouri, and does include, I know it doesn't really section the states out, but does include the far northeast corner of Colorado. Colorado has been producing some tornadoes lately. And even, I think, produced one yesterday when there really wasn't a high risk at all for tornadoes, if a risk at all. So, watch Colorado today. It seems like it's been a highlighted state. No crazy tornadoes, really photogenic ones. And to be honest, I don't speak on this much, but the pattern setting up through Memorial Day weekend is really just a storm chaser's dream. It's out here in the plains, not very highly populated area. It's flatter region, and this is just a setup where it doesn't support a huge tornado threat, but it does support really beautiful structured storms. Now, if you just happen to be under one of these storms, there's not going to be anything beautiful about it. I mean, it could be life-threatening. So, but we saw it yesterday in Texas. A lot of pictures throughout social media showed these crazy spiraling supercells, and it'll be a day like that today too, and tomorrow, and probably the next day also, except tomorrow is a little bit of a higher tornado risk. But green area, that is where we have a 2% risk of a tornado. Really just includes the western sections of the severe weather threat area. A little bit more flow, damaging wind threat. The yellow, that is a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. And then the hail threat, guys, there is a risk of significant sized hail, but the yellow, that's a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. But that black outline region, that's a 10% risk of significant sized hail, 2 inch in diameter or larger. And we will get that with some of these storms today into tonight. We saw it yesterday in Texas. But the southern mode of this, we do have a slight risk extending all the way down to portions of Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma City included, into areas of northwest Arkansas, Fayetteville, Fort Smith included. Marginal risk goes all the way to almost Memphis, but Little Rock down into Wichita Falls, down all the way down to like Fort Stockton, Midland, Lubbock, Amarillo, Woodard, Guyman. You guys are all included in this. Level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather, a marginal threat. Now, 2% risk of a tornado really it just includes a very small section of Oklahoma up here, not a big threat of that. The wind threat, yellow area, 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour, really just includes the slight risk area. And the hail threat, same area that we have a little bit of a tornado threat, except it's a little bit further east, but the yellow region, 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch. But, if you do live in that black outline region, this could extend a little bit further to the southeast, 10% risk of hail exceeding 2 inch in diameter or larger. So let's break this down state by state. Some of these states we won't spend a lot of time on at all, but this is Colorado. Watch out towards Sterling, points really northeast. That's around 2 p.m. Mountain Time out here. And there's going to be 1 or 2 cells we got to watch. And these could produce a tornado. It's around 5 p.m. It's around 6 p.m. Watch for these storms up here. If you live in this region, if you're tuning in, certainly say hi in the comments. But these storms will have just enough wind energy, kinematics, to certainly produce a tornado. Not a very high threat of it, but there is going to be a risk. And it's like a few hour time frame. By the time you're in 8 p.m., you're not really seeing any storms anymore. So it's right where you have the slight risk. Just be careful in this area of Colorado today, the northeast section of the state. Now, talking about Nebraska, starting off around lunchtime, we're going to have a little bit of rain in the eastern sections of the state. Don't expect much severe weather, if any, out of that. But then we have to just watch these storms into southwestern areas of the states. Same thing for, I would say southwest of North Platte and west of McCook. If you live in this region of Nebraska, watch out for a couple supercells that can produce all hazards. No tornado outbreak expected, but this is the next few days is what we call mesoscale days. Individual features in the atmosphere could drive higher risk areas of severe weather. Tornadoes, we've seen really large tornadoes in 2 to 5% risk of tornado days. And right now it's just a 2% risk in this area, but just watch out for a few supercells down this region. And, we start to take it till 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight, and it's about done after that. So just a few hour period down here, but it could produce 1 or 2 powerful thunderstorms. Kansas, a little bit more active down here, a little bit more widespread, but 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., all the way to about dinner time. Ain't a whole lot going on. Then we see that action coming out of southwest Nebraska, moving into the northwestern areas of Kansas, and we just have to watch this cell. This is 11 p.m. And listen, the ACRR model did horrific, terrible yesterday. But, this is all we have to really look at. We can look at the NAM too, but I like to just pick one and stick with it. They all can be wrong sometimes. One can be wrong, one can be really right. But we get to about midnight tonight, 1 a.m., and this is when a lot of storms could begin to erupt across central Kansas. Basically the interstate corridor from Colby, Hayes, Salina, Manhattan, over all the way to Kansas City. Just watch out for a line of storms, and it'll cluster up and it'll drift southeastward around this ridge axis and could become a severe weather threat. We could have a nasty line of storms moving through Hutchinson down to Wichita, potentially, give or take a few hours, around 4 a.m. tonight into tomorrow morning. And this could produce very heavy rainfall, and this is when that flooding threat could get going later on tonight. Not much of it during the day today. There ain't even going to be much storm action in Kansas during the day today if this model guidance is correct. But most model guidance does point to just an active overnight period across central to eventually eastern and southeastern Kansas. And this is waking up tomorrow. Going to have a line of storms probably moving through sections of the state. But it really gets going late tonight. So Missouri, we're starting off around 2 p.m. this afternoon. We'll take it to about 5, 6, 7. It's a couple shower storm activity possible, around Springfield, Rolla. We get to 10 p.m., just kind of elevated thunderstorm activity. I wouldn't expect much severe weather out of this, but we get into midnight. This is 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Then we start to get widespread thunderstorm activity in the I wouldn't say far, but the entire southern and really southwestern areas of the state. Just clusters of storms. You see these splotches of, yellow, orange, red, pink, just a lot of storm activity. And this is going to add up some rain here. It's going to, could get a couple inches of rain in a pretty short amount of time, but we get to 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., and I'd watch out around Joplin. Could have a powerful line of storms moving in well after midnight tonight, maybe all the way to basically between midnight and about daybreak tomorrow morning. We have to watch for a really strong line of storms around Joplin, Springfield also included. So, but dropping it down to Oklahoma, starting off around 3, 4 p.m. Not a whole lot going on. Really a conditional threat down here, but these are the areas down here, the southern mode, where model guidance can just be a crapshoot. It really could be. It's the best thing we can look at. But this is around 11 p.m. It finally pops off a storm around Stillwater. And these cluster of storms kind of drift between Tulsa and Oklahoma City, but they could very well be over here. They could be on top of Oklahoma City. For example, there is a risk. Their highest risk of severe weather is kind of, as far as significant sized hail, is up here in the tornado threat. But on this particular run, the ACRR model doesn't really show any storms developing. So my guess, guys, is just if you're in the risk of severe weather area, you are for a reason, guys, and that's kind of right through here. And there is a risk of severe weather right in here too, but just be careful. Some powerful supercells through this area. Even though this model guidance really ain't showing a whole lot, you could get a whole lot. And, I would definitely watch out later tonight. It really does show a pretty strong line of storms sometime after 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, rumbling through northeast Oklahoma late tonight into tomorrow morning. So just be mindful of that. Talking about Arkansas, we'll start off around 7 p.m. I don't expect a whole lot between now and then, honestly. But we get to 10, 11, midnight, 1 a.m. tonight, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Some storms begin to enter the western and northern areas of the state. But it's really, and they eventually drift into the northeastern areas of the state near Jonesboro and up into the boot of Missouri, even western areas of Tennessee. But you just gotta watch. I really think if you live in the northwestern half of Arkansas, be mindful of a very strong to severe line of storms moving through sections of the state up here for tomorrow morning. Could be a loud start to your weekend up here, so just be aware of that. And just showing kind of the rest of western Texas here. Just, be mindful of some storm activity. It doesn't show anything too crazy, but we could very well get one or two powerful storms down here that's not showing up well on model guidance. So just be careful today. Model guidance is not going to handle this very well. What I'll tell you here, and I meant to show you this as I went, and it stinks that I forgot, is let's just do this. I think this will be a better way of doing this. There is going to be, a flooding threat. This is rainfall between now, like you look down here at this part, this is between now and 7 p.m. tomorrow. You see this area right here? Like I said, right where Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas all kind of come together. That red area, that's over 2 inches of rain that's forecast. But you can get 2 to 4 inches of rain in this area. The purple area, that's over 1 inch to 2 inches of rain. So a lot of rain right here in this region over the next 36 hours or so. Now, a couple other areas to watch. And once again, Tropical Tidbits is down. And just like I thought, it wasn't my internet or computer. Tropical Tidbits is just having some issues. Levi, who runs the site, is working on it. And it's hard to complain when it's a free site. So we just kind of have to do what we can do with these videos. I love the way Tropical Tidbits kind of sections out the regions of the country. But another area I'm watching is the Deep South for later on tonight. This is for late this afternoon to tonight. We start to get to after midnight, and I do want to watch some storm activity sort of in western areas of Tennessee that you're waking up to for tomorrow morning. So if you live in Dyersburg, Memphis, maybe even all the way to Nashville, you're probably going to get some clusters of storms moving in to greet you guys tomorrow morning, and then we start to get into tomorrow's forecast after that. And then another area to watch is New England. Obviously, we continue to have this spin, even some snow flying around out there in higher elevations, and it's just going to be another nasty day of weather. Could actually have a rumble of thunder down here in New York City, maybe some small hail, but it's just going to be another nasty, dreary, cold, damp day across New England, as we just cannot shake this upper level low. It's trapped. And even getting into tomorrow, it's going to be another day of it, just not as widespread. You're not going to get as much widespread rain. So just not the best, at least start to your Memorial weekend here. But hopefully we'll shake this soon. And out west, just some rain showers, maybe even some storms. I would watch southeast Montana for a couple sneaky cells that could do something interesting. One of my dreams is to go out here and chase, honestly, in the plains. And I have a feeling it's going to be extremely spontaneous when I do it. I'm going to hop on here and tell you guys, hey, I'm going to the high plains to chase some storms, and I'm gonna be like, hey man, hey guys, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna make a video for a couple days. And honestly, I've been thinking about doing it this weekend. It's a cool little setup, but it's been, like I said, it's been tough for me to want to leave the house and storm chase. And honestly, I just want to go out there and just park my car on the side of the road and just watch a supercell out in the distance spin away. A lot of me doesn't really enjoy. I enjoy the adrenaline, but I don't enjoy just seeing the destruction. I never have, but a lot of these storm chasers, that's what a lot of them get paid for, is filming some of the worst case scenarios out there. And it's just hard for me to, it's hard for me to, I don't know, just, I guess, watch that. But I would love to go out there and really just watch these cells just do their thing out here in the open fields, and just see the beauty of it, especially if it's not bothering anybody. But anyways, there's my rambling session of the morning. I'm good for one a morning. But temperatures a nasty cold day across New England. I mean, there's no way to get around it. Some areas won't be quite as cold as yesterday. I think overall it won't be quite as cold, but still just nasty weather. But New York City points south. You get into the mid-Atlantic, 60s and 70s. It's a nice day in the Carolinas. And then you start to get south of the cold front, the boundary, and it separates nice spring, dry air with warm Gulf air. And you can see the difference in the deep south states. I mean, areas of Alabama, for example, and even Georgia and Mississippi. Southern half of the states, 90s, high humidity. Northern half of the states will just be in the 70s. So, it's a boundary setting up across this region. You look at the central U.S., and you can see the boundary well, guys. I mean, I think you can see it beautifully, honestly. You can see how there's a separation between spring-like air, 60s and 70s, and hot summer-like air to the south. Not hair, but the soupy air does make your hair. The soupy air does make your hair messed up, if that makes any sense. Anyways, guys, just random. Look at the western U.S., and it's warming on up. The ridge is in place. Everywhere is pretty much warming up. There is a pocket of cooler air across the northern plains, 40s and 50s. But outside that, if you're away from all that, it's warming up pretty nicely. So moving forward and talking about the weather to come, guys, this is tomorrow's severe weather outlook. Hey, it's going to be the same similar setup. So we have a little bit more of a better kinematic play in the atmosphere tomorrow. This will support a little bit higher of a tornado threat. So right now, slight risk in areas of Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas, very small section of those states, and Arkansas down to a very small section of northern Texas. And this goes right through the heart of Oklahoma. Oklahoma City, Tulsa, slight risk. Tornado threat with this. It is at a 5% risk already. So Oklahoma City, you're right in the heart of this 5% risk in the brown area of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. The green area, that's a 2% risk. Wind threat, 15% risk of damaging winds in the yellow area. And the hail threat, not only do you have the 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch, you also have a 10% chance of hail exceeding 2 inch in diameter or larger. So, tomorrow's severe weather threat is going to be dicey. I can see it uptrending. It's going to include a higher populated area of the plains, Oklahoma City up to Tulsa, all the way up to Joplin, almost into Springfield, down to Wichita Falls, Fayetteville. So tomorrow will be a little bit more of a dicey day, compared to today's severe weather threat. Now, let's go back and look at this. And I will mention there's a marginal risk that does extend all the way into the deep south and all the way up to Denver, all the way down to Midland. Now, the excessive rainfall outlook, another risk of flash flooding. So we have a 15% risk of flash flooding occurring within 25 miles of any given location in this yellow area. Includes kind of the same areas it's going to be dealing with it today also. We'll flip it back to this and we look at the day 3 outlook. This is for Sunday. Severe weather threat for the same areas, basically, except it's larger. So we have a slight risk that goes back to Amarillo, Lubbock, all the way down to south of Abilene, all the way up across the Red River into the Oklahoma City, Tulsa area, into Fayetteville, Fort Smith. And this could get larger. I mean, this is 2 days away from us, so we could see an increase in this. But one thing to note is we have a marginal risk that goes all the way up to Denver, all the way down to the Mexico-Texas border, and screams across areas of the deep south all the way to the southeast coastline. So widespread area of severe weather expected for Sunday. It's just, is this going to be a big time risk? Is this going to uptrend? Let's hope not. Right now, all we know is that there's a 15% risk of severe weather in this yellow area, but in this black outline region, there is a 10% risk of significant severe weather. And I think that this will probably be very large hail, but I do think we'll end up getting a 5% risk of a tornado with this too. So we just got to watch it. And we look at the day 3 outlook for flash flooding. And listen, we're now up to a 40% risk of flash flooding occurring for Sunday into Monday morning. So the flash flooding threat, same areas, right, where Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Arkansas sort of all meet together. The same area is going to continue to have an uptrending threat of flash flooding between now and the next several days. So a lot of rain is going to fall in this area, and then the slight risk gets larger, stretches across many states. So that is a 15% risk. But that red area, that is a 40% risk of flash flooding occurring within 25 miles of any given location. We flip it back to this, look at that, and we look at the day 4 outlook, guys. And I look, it's just another threat of severe weather. Already a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather for day 4, which is Memorial Day. So this includes the Dallas-Fort Worth area, deeper down to Texas, down to Austin, back over to the Louisiana-Texas border, all the way back over to San Angelo, Abilene. So level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. All we know is that this area has a 15% risk of severe weather, but a pretty large area is going to run the risk of severe weather from Memorial Day. But this is the area that they're most confident in. And just looking at past this region, I mean, there's already a threat, a 15% risk of flash flooding risk across this yellow area for Memorial Day. So it's a pretty active pattern, but just because it's active, that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get just insane severe weather. Just kind of low to medium grade severe weather days. And starting off tomorrow, just sectioning off a couple of different areas of the country of how these storms could evolve. And what we'll watch for tomorrow is, and this is just a Euro, which I think does a good job of finding the placement of storms. It's not a short-range model, so it's not going to get really detailed on these storms. But tomorrow evening, you see just basically the colors, the blobs, if you will, of orange and yellow down here in Oklahoma. That just tells us, hey, there's going to be a lot of storm activity. Could be some storm activity up here too in Nebraska, and certainly in Missouri and Arkansas. And then we start to get into our Sunday. This is Sunday afternoon, and once again, a lot of storm activity in areas of southern Missouri, getting into Arkansas and Oklahoma and northern Texas. And then we start to get into our Memorial Day, and just a lot of storm activity across the plains. This is Memorial Day midday. And then we start to get into our Tuesday, and there's still storms dancing around down here in Arkansas. And it looks like things kind of begin to calm down in this region as we get to about early to midway next week. Now we'll back this up back to where we were, and we'll go on and drop it down a little bit further south, include the rest of Texas. And we've already talked about today. So once again, we get into tomorrow. Not a whole lot through the afternoon, but bang, there's those storms right here in Oklahoma that we just talked about. And then we get into Sunday. A lot of storm activity here in the western plains of Texas. And, I mean, it could be a stormy overnight period into Sunday evening, Sunday night, too. There's a lot of storms dancing around. It looks like complexes of storms. We get into Monday morning, just storms everywhere. Just in general, look at this and say, hey, this is a pretty stormy pattern. And then we get into Tuesday, a lot of storms dancing around also. We get into Wednesday, and it still looks pretty active for especially the western deep south. A lot of storms, complex of storms hanging out around the western deep south, Louisiana, Mississippi. And then Thursday could be active, just shunted a little bit further south into Texas, as I think there'll be some sort of cold front from the northeast to the southwest scraping across these areas up here. But, I mean, even getting into next Friday, it shows storms around. And, the last area we'll look at here is, it looks like I already had this section off. So we'll actually just look at this. Last area we'll look at is this region right here of the country. And this is for tomorrow. And I want to say, tomorrow afternoon, we could have some storms across. I think tomorrow morning we will, but tomorrow afternoon, some more storms could fire up in Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi. We start to get into Sunday, and this is when it gets more active for this area. So Sunday, once again, a big area of storms. We'll greet you guys for Sunday morning. You'll already probably be getting it in this same area for Saturday morning, but we get into Sunday morning, same thing. And I want to watch some storms even down here in the Carolinas too. I mean, show some storms dancing around. Could become more stormy here in the Carolinas. And, we get into Monday. This is Monday afternoon. Look at all this storm activity for the deep south. A lot of heavy rain in Arkansas. But we just some sort of frontal boundary setting up shop. And then we get into Tuesday. Storms really draping across areas of the deep south. A lot of rain into the Appalachian Mountains. And this is Wednesday. More storms. This is Thursday. And I think that we could have a big cold front that sweeps through this area late next week with a trough digging down. And this could bring a higher severe weather threat around this time next week. I just want to watch that. So, but this is moisture for Sunday. Okay, let's get our days right. This is moisture for Sunday. So let's go on and back it up to Saturday. tomorrow. So you see our best moisture, and we're explaining the setup here. Dew points in the 60s and 70s. When you get dew points in the 60s and 70s, you check off the box for a severe weather ingredient thermodynamic wise. Enough moisture at the surface. So most of your better moisture setting up shop here. Okay, where's our flow? Flow at about 500 millibars, about 18,000 feet up in the air. Our flow, our best flow is way up here, but just remember that the flow needs to be overlapping a moist environment. So our flow, right here, our moist air is really kind of building across this region, kind of cutting off right in here. Okay, now we flip it and we go back to our kinematics and we'll bring this up. So that's where our moisture is building for the same time period, and this is where our wind flow is. So we have just enough flow in the upper levels of the atmosphere setting up through here, and this is overriding a pretty moist environment for tomorrow afternoon. Now there is enough like a tongue of moisture up into this area that'll get the job done. The higher up you are in elevation, even when it's a plateau, the less moisture you need at the surface for severe weather. Now we get into Sunday. We're only going to take this a few days out, but we get into Sunday afternoon. Moisture boundary is setting up right through here. Okay, just drawing this. So it's setting up sort of right through here. And then our best moisture is through here, to the south of that boundary, right? All right, let's get this back off your screen. Let's jump back to kinematics, and let's move this forward all the way to that same time period. So this is for tomorrow afternoon. All right, this is where our flow is, kind of riding up on top of a ridge, but becoming more zonal flowed at this point, meaning, in this case, west to east. So do we have enough push in the atmosphere to get these storms going? Well, if we pull this back up, our moisture boundary is right in here. Most of our best flow in the upper levels of the atmosphere is north of this moisture boundary, but there is enough little impulses of energy down here, a little 20 to 30, 35, 40 knots of flow right into here to get these storms going. And this doesn't always tell the story. I mean, we have little impulses of flow in the lower levels of the atmosphere that really get these storms going. And we don't always look at this in general to see if we can get, so we can have like stagnant flow in the atmosphere. We can have, I mean, basically right under an upper level ridge and just no real thing to get storms going. And then just heat and instability really just makes these storms explode. Now, a lot of times they'll fall apart. They don't move much. That's what we call pop-up thunderstorms in the south in the middle of summer, where, you know, there'll be like a 10 to 20% chance of rain, and all of a sudden around 3 o'clock you'll get this just crazy thunderstorm, and it happens. But, you know, we start to move into, say, Memorial Day afternoon, and your moisture boundary is starting to surge a little bit further to the north, and I'll pull this back up, drawing this. So at this point, our dry line is setting up in Texas. Moisture is kind of doing like this and like that. And most of our moisture is right in here. Now we compare that once again to where our best flow is for Memorial Day itself. And there's not a lot of widespread flow in the atmosphere, but you notice just there could be a little short wave right here. See this little dip right here in this line? So could be some sort of surface feature that enhances better flow in the atmosphere in the lower levels. So we actually look at 850 millibars, the same time frame. Let's scoot it up right here. And doesn't show much on the table here, but you know, shows a little feature right in here. But these are mesoscale type days, guys. You know, this is where leftover boundaries from the night before can play a factor. And if you kind of just pull this back up, you know, there's not a whole lot of going on, a lot of push in the atmosphere, but you don't always need a lot of push in the atmosphere. You know, that severe weather in these setups are tough to talk about, tough to figure out. Sometimes you just got to go back to the basics and say, okay, well, it's pretty humid outside. These storms can fire up. But there's got to be some sort of lifting mechanism in the atmosphere too. And, you know, you're not going to have a ton of that over the coming days, but you'll have enough little impulses to really get these storms going, especially over the next couple days. And one thing that we have to watch as we get, later in the week is a trough digging down. But in general, between now and the next week, the epicenter of the heaviest rain threat, especially over the next few days, is going to be right into here. And this is really, a lot of this is falling through Memorial Day weekend, through like Tuesday morning. But this is actually between now and Friday morning of next week. And this yellow area, that's where 4 to 5 inches of rain could fall. And just to kind of zoom into a couple areas here, I mean, look at that. That's a lot of rain in this area of Arkansas. I've said it about 5 or 6 times already. Right here where Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, heck, you can even include Texas, northern Louisiana, Missouri, all kind of mash here. 4 to as much as 7 inches of rain could fall. Now, a lot of rain could also fall in areas of the South too. Could enter a pretty wet pattern across areas of the Deep South, and also across the Mid-South and Midwest, and not really Midwest, but up into maybe portions of the Southern Ohio Valley. We could get a lot of rain in this area too over the next week. Now, a big player as we get into the later half of next week is an area of low pressure that develops up here. This is 500 millibar. Shows us where the ridge is, where the trough is, and you'll see a big blue blob get thrown up on your screen here in the eastern half of the lower 48. That is a big trough of low pressure, and this will swing down, be a dip in the jet stream, and this could drive a bigger weather maker across the eastern U.S., except, I think this is going to dig down fast enough to where severe weather threats won't be too significant, but I would certainly watch this. This could do something funky as we get into next weekend. So we'll have to watch that as we get closer, but a pretty active stormy pattern setting up. Going forward, guys, we'll probably just focus on each individual day and maybe the day ahead. I feel like we've explained the pattern enough coming up. It's a complex pattern, and it's one that's not really easy to explain with just light flow. But if you really read the discussions from from the Storm Prediction Center, it really talks about how these are what we call mesoscale days. And I know I've said that a few times, but you really got to watch for different features in the atmosphere the hours leading up to the prime time of severe weather, which is the afternoon and evening hours. And those little features like leftover outflow boundaries, pools of cool air, something not being modeled correctly, morning storms and convection. You have to watch different features that can make a lower to mid-grade severe weather threat end up being higher end or not much of one at all. And that's how the pattern is going to be over the next few days. So that makes it very tough to explain before the event, but we just have to really watch. That's why it's important to have a reliable radar to download. Radar Scope is what I use, but other people use other things too. So that's all I got. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful start to your weekend, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow morning.